Hi guys, Yoshi here, and this is the second part of my Destiny 2 PvP guide series. And in this part of the guide, I'm going to be talking about weapon choice. And more specifically, I'll be focusing on a little introduction, mainly on special usage. I'll be talking about primary weapons and their weapon combinations. And I will be talking about how to select your weapons based off of your exotic usages, or how to select your exotics based off of your weapon usages. And last but not least, I will also be talking about some of the meta special weapons and what you might want to be using. So in this part of the guide, I'm going to be talking about weapon choice. So I'm gonna give a little preface slash introduction here. So as for weapon choice, never go for double primary. It will never take you far unless you are an experienced player. And even if you are an experienced player, you'll find that yourself, if you are that experienced player and other experienced players, they never use double primaries. It's just a waste. And the reason for this note is that special weapons are incredibly strong in Destiny, even if you are using an off-meta special weapon. So you don't have to be using like a Mindbenders or a Evoker to be doing really well. You can be using like Jotun, the exotic fusion rifle that like tracks people. Like you don't see it a lot because it's not really meta, but it's still very strong. It's a very strong weapon. So special weapon types include grenade launchers, shotguns, snipers, and fusion rifles. Snipers, I'd say, require the most skill, in my opinion. Hitting headshots isn't that easy for all players, and learning lanes to hold is an entirely different skill to master as well. Next up, I'd say fusions are relatively middle of the pack. They require some skill to master, but they're much easier to use than snipers. The two main points in using a fusion, I'd say, are understanding how to control the recoil on them and knowing how to pre-charge fusions when engaging other players. Next, I'd say grenade launchers are the second least amount of skill. They do require a degree of skill, like knowing when to time your detonations and knowing which guns to pair them with. But for the most part, you may not see this special weapon used as much as others. It's not like they aren't very strong. It's just they're a little harder to use, a little kind of like niche, I'd say, but they definitely are relatively easy to use, but and like relatively good. It's just not a lot of players use them because there are much easier things to be using, such as shotguns, which I'd say require the least amount of skill. They do require you to have some fundamentals of your mechanical knowledge of how to play this game, but in all regards, I'd say shotguns are the easiest of the four special weapon types to be using. And there also are linear fusions, but I'm just going to group linear fusions for the sake of this guide into fusions as well, because I mean, they're practically the same thing. It's like a sniper that charges up, but also a fusion technically. So if you know what I'm getting at here, they're like snipers, so they require some degree of skill because you have to go for headshots, but they are a lot easier to use than snipers. I'd say they're not that difficult. So you can put a lot of there's a lot of targeting mods you can add to linear fusions that make them pretty good. So they're not super hard, but they aren't super easy to use either. But they are fusions, if you will. And the next thing I want to talk about is your primary weapon selection and the weapon combinations that you are going to be wanting to go for. So I've talked a little bit about these special weapons. I'm going to talk a little bit about the primary combos that you're going to be using. And what I mean by this is that certain special weapons can reach certain ranges, certain different ranges. So shotguns, they reach short range. They cover short range. Your short range base is coverage if you shotgun. However, your medium and your long range is not covered. Yes, you could use a sniper that does technically cover medium or long range. However, you're eating into your special ammo economy by splitting it between two guns instead of just into one gun. So you're going to want to pick up a primary. And a good primary is probably an auto rifle since auto rifles are pretty strong this season. This auto rifle will help me cover the medium to long distances that my shotgun cannot cover. So this is a good combination. Another good combination would probably be spare rations, a hand cannon, and my shotgun. So the shotgun here covers the close range, and my hand cannon can cover medium range. It might cover long range, but it hits that medium range that I can't get with my mind benders. So it helps me cover more of range. It helps me cover all my bases essentially. So if someone's picking at me from a longer range than my shotgun, I have a weapon that I can use to deal with this enemy. So in addition to these combos, just know the ranges at which your guns are effective at. So snipers, they're effective at long range, so you're going to need something to handle the short range, so that's probably where a hand cannon or sidearm or an SMG will come into place. So definitely know what you're bringing to the table and how it can help you. You don't want to go, if you just go in with two short-ranged weapons, like if I went in with a shotgun and a sidearm, I'm not going to be able to cover medium and long ranges. And because I've done this to myself, I'm not going to be able to engage enemies that are in medium or long ranges. So I'm either going to have to play around this fact and be able to flank up on enemies, or I'm just going to have to suck. I'm going to have to suck at it and get destroyed by people who are at medium or long ranges because I have at no way to deal with them. Next, I'm going to talk about how your exotics might influence your weapons or how your weapons might influence what exotics you use. So essentially the same thing. So if you notice here, I'm using transversives. My transversives are very good for closing the distance between me and an opponent. And because it's good for doing this, I'm going to want to roll with a shotgun. Shotgun's one shot from close range, since I can close the distance between me and my enemy, since I'm using an exotic that allows me or enables me to do so. A shotgun's going to really shine with this playstyle I've set up for myself. If I'm not using transversives, maybe I'm using Ophidians, maybe I'm going to want to snipe again because I get that quick draw, that fake quick draw ability. Or I can still ape with these because they increase my melee range. Because sometimes when you're shotgunning, you're going to need to punch someone to kill them to finish up the damage. Sometimes not all your pellets hit. So having an increased melee range allows you to catch people off guard and hit them from farther distances, allowing you to secure the kill more effectively. Or um, maybe you're using an exotic a weapon that influences what type of exotic armor piece you're using. So maybe I'm using hard light. Hard light ricochets off walls. It allows me to cover like long range distances. Transversives might not be as useful. I could probably switch off transversives and use my geomags since I don't need to close the distance between me and enemies anymore. Geomags are probably going to help me out more. And since you look at my geomags here, since they're void energy, I'm only going to have my grenade launcher scavs, or I'm going to maybe have sniper rifle scavs. So maybe I'm going to run mountaintop, or I'm going to run like Revoker or something. I mean, Revoker probably wouldn't be as good because they both will cover that long range, but it depends on what I'm feeling like. But you want to look at the different armor pieces that you have and how they might combo into the different weapons that you have. Or you might want to look at your weapons and see how they might combo into different um, exotic pieces and how you can set yourself up to maximize the most out of your kit. And do remember that just because in this meta auto rifles are very strong doesn't mean you can't use any of these other guns. Sidearms are underrated. They're still really good. They melt at close range. Subs are still really good. Recluse is still a very strong weapon. And hand cannons. Hand cannons are still good. You just have to adjust your playstyle based off of what other people are using. And the last thing I want to talk about is meta special. And for meta special weapons, I'm going to be talking about what you're going to be wanting to use in each category of special. And for the fusions, I'm just going to talk about fusions, not really going to talk about linears because I mean they are used a little, but they aren't used a lot. So for sniping, I recommend Beloved or Revoker. If you see Revoker that I have here, it's a PvP pinnacle weapon. It's got Reversal of Fortune as its little custom perk. It's whenever you miss a shot, there's a little time that passes and you get that bullet back. You also get snapshot sights, and the zoom factor of Revoker is one of the lowest in the game, making it a very easy sniper to use. It's a very, very good sniper for beginners, and it can definitely help you learn at in sniping and getting better at sniping as well. And then Beloved, I don't have Beloved on me, but overall, if you've ever picked up a Beloved, all of its stats, impact range, stability, handling, reload, and its aim assistance stat, they're all very even. It's a very evenly distributed weapon. It's very strong. It can roll snapshot and quick draw on it, making it a very powerful weapon to be using. As for shotguns, I'd recommend using aggressive frame shotguns. Not to say that precision, rapid frame, or lightweight frame shotguns aren't viable. I just say that aggressive frame shotguns are the most consistent shotguns. They have always been and still are the most consistent shotguns to be using. And the reason aggressive frames like Mindbenders and the new Trials shotgun Astral Horizon are used is because these two shotguns can roll quick draw, and quick draw allows you to pull out your weapon unbelievably fast. And having an ability like this can make a big difference whenever you get into a close quarter fight. Whether or not you're able to whip out your mindbenders or your shotgun faster than an opponent can make the difference between you living in a fight or you dying in a fight. So it's a very good shotgun to use because it can roll this perk. And next up are grenade launchers. You're probably not going to see a lot of grenade launcher use similar to linear fusions. You might see people using the mountaintop because it's just a easy weapon to use. It fires in a straight line forever and it does a ton of damage when you hit someone. It also has sticky grenades, so you can leave stickies behind and catch people off guard when they run into them. And you might see Fighting Lion. Fighting Lion is a very good grenade launcher because it doesn't use special ammo, it uses primary ammo. So and you can determine when to detonate the charges. So it's a fire and release type of weapon, making it for some very precise gameplay. So it's definitely a grenade launchers definitely have a place in this game. They just might not be for everyone. And last but not least are fusions. I wouldn't say fusions are super meta right now. Maybe in past seasons they used to be a little bit better, but in this season I haven't seen a lot of people using fusions. Shotguns and auto rifles are definitely very meta right now. They're taking up most of the space for weapon kits, so you're probably not going to be seeing a lot of fusions. I don't think I even have a fusion on me currently, so that's proof in itself that fusions aren't that great. If you do prefer fusions, I'd still recommend Air Intel. Air Intel is a very good weapon, even though its range has been nerfed a little bit, it still hits incredibly hard and will one-shot pretty much all enemies. So by all means, if fusions are your thing, then use them. If you're good at something, use it. And that covers this section of the guide on weapon choice. We covered the special usage, your primary and weapon combinations, how to select your weapons based off exotics, or how to select your exotics based off of weapons, and some of the meta special weapons. And in the next part of this guide, I'm going to be talking about this part is going to be a little bit longer, and it's going to be on positioning and map knowledge. So